Welcome to Seed to Success, the podcast where we deep dive into the strategies, stories, and smart decisions that help VAs and OBMs grow and thrive. I'm your host, Adrienne Donnelly, and whether you're just starting out or looking for ways to take your business to the next level, you're in the right place. Now let's get into today's conversation. We're back for another Inner Circle member episode, joined today by the beautiful Sharon. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. This is exciting. I haven't done one of these before.
Haven't you? Another podcast,
No.
Cherry getting popped today. I don't know if that references it, but anyway, we'll go with that. So before your VA and the business that you're currently running now, what did your career look like? What's your background?
Well, funnily enough, it was in banking and finance, which is really boring now that I think.
Very
different. But honestly, I joined a bank, one of the big four, straight out of school when I was 17. And I worked for them. Talk about loyalty. I worked for them for 32 years, nearly 33 years.
Wow. You must have started when you were 12.
I'm so young. Yeah. That's the right answer. So the reason that I left is, so banks are notorious for going through restructures and, so essentially I saw that some potential redundancies were coming for my business unit. And I was actually like, pick me, because the timing was actually perfect. Like I couldn't have timed it better myself. And it's funny because over the years, redundancies had been, on the table, but they weren't the right time. The kids were younger, they were in private school, we had a huge mortgage, all of that stuff. So this timing was great in the sense that my younger son was just about to graduate year 12. I really had been wondering about what I wanted to do with my life. I had been looking within the bank for another role, and it was COVID as well. So I was very used to working from home at that point in time because we all migrated to working from home if we weren't customer facing, which I wasn't. So yeah, I went, pick me, and they picked me. So yes, that was my pre-now working career. That's pretty boring. It's just one employer.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure you did lots of various things within that time. What did that transition look like? When did you, after that redundancy, start thinking, do I get another job? Do I go out on my own? What did that look like? And how did the kind of world of virtual assistants, how did you become aware of that?
Look, I wanted to take some time for myself and my husband he's super, super supportive. He was like, don't work if you don't want to work. I'm like, well, I don't know if I know how to not work. I'm still too young to retire because remember, I'm 35. Kidding. But so John was like, take some time. And I went, I actually do. I just want to sit with it for a while and work out what to do. And also just enjoy not having to be somewhere or to be available to an employer every single day. So I think it was about 7 or 8 months.
Wow.
And yeah, I just really took some time. And then I said to John, I probably should start contributing to, the family now. And he goes, what do you mean? You do? And I'm like, no, but, I guess when it's instilled upon you and you've got a strong work ethic, that not actually bringing in an income just feels a little bit, it just didn't, I knew that wasn't my future for now. So I started looking online. I'm like, okay, what do I know? I know banking. I know brokering in the sense that for the last 5 or 6 years of my career with the bank, I was in the state broker department, NAB. It was NAB broker. And I'm like, you know what? I know a lot of brokers. Maybe what I could do is, find a job within a broker firm or whatnot. A lot of my roles within NAB were actually, of most recent time, were admin and organising and sorting out peoples and processes and systems and all that. So I knew that was my strength. So I started looking online at jobs, was on Seek, looking at stuff. And when I started thinking about what it would look like to go in, have an interview with someone, and obviously there'd be an expectation that you'd be in the office because, COVID was over. If I was new to an organization, you can't go, well, actually, I'd like to work from home, all the time. And I started feeling sick about the whole just going back into the office, into corporate role. So I then went, right, there's got to be a way that I can monetize what I know and what I'm good at. So I just started Googling shit. So I was just Googling, and all of a sudden it brought me into this world of virtual assistant. I'm like, what is this? I need to know more about it. And I know a lot of people do this now, particularly people who are thinking about doing it or they've heard about it. They go, is this real? Like, is it a real job? Is it a real industry? Just, not knowing enough about it. So I then started looking up virtual assistant mentors and programs and that sort of stuff. And there's a lot out there if you're looking. They're not all created equal, though, that's for sure. And for me, it was about finding someone, or I guess a business, who actually nurtured people along the way. Because I am good at researching, I can find out how to do all the things to become a virtual assistant. But I'm also very much of a person who, if someone has already trod that path and knows how to do it and has helped other people, so that's where Seed came into play. So, and I measured Seed up against, several different people and places as well. But that's where I landed. And honestly, so good. It's been the best thing ever. I really haven't, though. Like, that sounds so cliche, but I really haven't. And the fact that I actually just get to do what I do every day, and I get to call the shots myself, is just bloody amazing.
Okay. And so how does your business now look compared to what it did when you first went out on your own, and that feeling of like, I'm not ready to go back into a corporate, that is not lighting me up? How does your business look different now to that?
Well, when I first started out, and it's like anyone starting out as a virtual assistant, you're sort of a little bit unsure about what services to offer and how you actually package that up and how you price it. And, so absolutely went through that uncertainty like most of us seem to. So at first I offered general admin because I didn't know, I knew about the concept of niching down, but I'm like, and it was so funny because I was like, in my mind, I'm like, niche? Why do I have to niche? Surely just anyone who needs my help, I can help them. Anyone who needs. So it was really quite, not naive, but quite funny now that I look back at it, because if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. I think that's the saying. So anyway, I was very lucky in the sense that I had put out on LinkedIn, because I had a community of people on LinkedIn just through my banking days as well. So I'd already had, quite a good network there. And so I put it out there that I was actually going to start my own business, and I was going to be offering virtual assistant support services. And someone that I used to work with in the bank had now become a broker and had started his own business. Now, I think what's happened as well is because of the fact that he knew me from the bank, he also knew that I had that broker experience. I've never been a broker, but I do have my diploma. So I actually am qualified, even though, because the bank paid for that for me to do that study. So I'm like, why not take advantage of that at the time? So he said, let's work together. So I started doing his admin, and then he's like, do you do social media as well? I'm like, sure. I had no idea how to do social media. I'm like, yes, I can do that.
I can learn.
Yeah. Well, you just make shit up, right? You don't. Scrap that. You don't. But what you do is you figure it out, right? You figure it out. So, and I also knew that he didn't have a social media profile or anything like that too. So, it was a bit of a learning for me and for him as we were both going along with that. So what was really funny is that then after I started doing his socials for a while, he started telling other people about me. So then next minute I've got another broker on board doing socials. Next minute someone else heard about that. So then all of a sudden I started to be doing socials, and the admin side, I only had that one client that was looking for admin support from me. And then I actually said to him, you know what, I think I'm going to move away from admin. And he goes, that works perfectly for me anyway. I'm about to bring on an operations manager. So,
Perfect.
so I just dropped admin altogether, which then meant I needed to well, for me, I needed to rebrand from my previous business name that I didn't align with anymore to Ella and Co Creative. And I then started to become known within my community for Canva support and now more so social media management as well. So yeah, I don't do any admin support. I guess I'm a creative. I'm a creative, which is mind blowing to me when this little girl joined the bank and stayed there for nearly 33 years in a process and policy driven environment. So I must have had this little creative part of me that was busting to get out, but
Yeah.
maybe didn't realize or didn't have the time or the outlet for it. So yeah,
It's
that's
such a
where I am
great
now.
example of how our past network can really fuel our business. My story is very similar to yours, where my first two
Yeah.
clients were past colleagues because they had seen us in that capacity and sort of delivering those services just in a corporate environment. So when we take those, those skills and those all those transferable skills we have as admin professionals and take them and turn them into our own business services, those people are often great first clients of ours because they've already seen us in that capacity. It's just with a different, sign on the door now. And it's a
Yeah.
really great example of tapping into your existing professional network
Yeah.
to help when you're starting out.
Yeah, I think it comes down to work ethic. And if you've already got that brand out there, regardless of what it is that you're actually doing, if people already know that about you, they trust you. So, Patrick was my first client. He's still a client now. I still do his socials. That's not going to change anytime soon from what I can see and from what he's telling me. And he trusts me to represent his business. So yeah, it's really quite funny because when I decided to become a virtual assistant, I actually wasn't looking to work with brokers specifically. I actually thought I've had enough time in that finance space. Let's play in another space. But I'm not going to say no to, if someone says, you know what, I'd love to work with you. And if our values align, for me, that is so much more important than, because I've had a dream client, getting off topic here, but I've had a dream client reach out to me before. I thought they were a dream client and then started working with them. And then I realized there was a huge values misalignment. And I'm like, nah. And so my gut was telling me that this isn't right. So yeah, it was a short-lived relationship in that regard because values are so important to me.
I think it's a great point that you raise, especially when we're starting out, around having, that set idea of who you want to work with and the services, but also being a little bit curious and almost being a bit open to some of those other options. Because imagine if you said hard and fast, no mortgage brokers, that Patrick, who then referred you on to all these other
Yeah.
people, actually
Yeah.
allowed you to land on now what is your niche and this incredible work that you do in this creative space. So I think, it's great to have that structure, but it's also great to be curious and be open to other opportunities that may present themselves and take the time to consider those, because you kind of never know where that may potentially lead and the evolution it might take your business on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people shouldn't be afraid that what they thought it might look like at the beginning, if it changes, because I would say nearly every single virtual assistant that I know, and I know a lot of them, I would say that what they're doing now looks quite different to what they were doing when they first started, because it takes time to actually work out what actually lights you up. And that's what I found with when I decided to drop the admin piece. It was the work that I was least drawn to. I was playing in Canva, I was doing the socials, and then I'd go, oh, that's right, I need to do all this other stuff too for him. would always get it done. But then I realized that just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should do it. So, because I wasn't loving it anymore. I was good at it, but I wasn't loving it. And I was loving the creative side.
And that's the thing about working for yourself, right? Is you do get to choose and you get to change and you get to consider other options. And I 100% agree with you. All of the VAs I know, which are many, none of their businesses look the same as when they started out. And that's because other opportunities have presented themselves. Our industry has changed and evolved. The world has changed and evolved. Technologies, tech, the way we do business, that's all changed. And it is that thing about being fluid and just exploring those options as they present, to you and considering them. And the thing, I guess, too, about working with clients is it doesn't have to be forever. It's not like when you're employed and the only option is resigning. You can wrap that work up with the client and say that this has been really great working with you. I'm taking my business in a different direction, which means I'm no longer able to service you as a client, but let me recommend some other options to you. No, it doesn't have to be forever, which is just one of the many, many amazing things about running our own businesses.
And I think that gets easier over time because it's hard at the beginning when you're sort of driven by, well, I'm speaking from my own personal experience, you sort of scarcity. You've got that scarcity mindset and you're like,
yes,
I've got to just hold on to this client because, oh my God, if I get rid of them, what do I have? And so you have that scarcity mindset, but it's driving the wrong behavior. And then you end up resenting the work that you're doing or resenting every time that client messages you. And I'm old enough and wise enough now to be able to go, you know what? No, that's not a good place to be in. So it's powerful to be able to be in that position though, to actually make that choice about who you work with. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, we're not always in that position. If we have a bit of financial flexibility, a bit of financial freedom, multiple income streams in the household, those sorts of things. But I think we've all also been at those points where we do have to say yes to some clients that maybe are not our ideal client and I think it comes from a desire to really make this business work. And it's okay to go, I just need to do this for now. That is the season that I'm in. But when I can, I will move that client on because they're maybe not serving me. I'm not loving what I'm doing. They're not really my ideal client. But, once I've built that business up and got it to that point, they may be the ones that we move on or we exit from.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the, one thing that I also did was I did do some subcontracting work with an actual graphic designer as well. So she would do like branding for clients, but then part of her package would be that the client needed like Canva templates for their new brand, for example. So she would use me to do that for them. And what was really good though, because it really, she was so particular in the work that she put out there for her clients. And because I was creating for her clients as well, obviously under her brand name, she was putting a fine-tooth comb over everything I was doing. But it was great. And whilst, sometimes it was frustrating, but I actually learnt so much about what a graphic designer might look for in, just certain things like that. So that was actually really good. And that was part of my learning process and wanting to get better in Canva and wanting to get better at, design as well. So if people are struggling or wanting to sort of learn, then that's a good way to do it, to actually, find a mentor or someone that you can actually subcontract to and then learn from them to hone your skills.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Sharon, I wanted to ask you, in your business, you have your retainer clients that you work on a regular, weekly, monthly basis, but you also have project-based clients. How do you manage that sort of two different sort of business models within yours? Are there any things that are tricky that you've sort of learned to manage if someone's listening that offers both of those? Is there any sort of advice and tips that you would give them?
Yeah, look, I actually love the fact that I do have that sort of dual modality, I suppose, because what what really lights me up is the creative part, the branding. So I'll do Canva branding or, Canva template packages or whatnot. So bespoke packages. So I've got those and they're my projects. I can only take on a certain number of those depending on what else is going on. So I've got those, but then I've got my recurring social media management clients. So what's great about that is that that's my recurring monthly revenue.
Yes.
So obviously the more of those that I take on, the less of the branding, the creative ones that I can do. I mean, I get to create when I'm doing social media, obviously, but I really like trying to come up with concepts and that for new brands or for a rebrand, etc. But so the more I get of the social media clients, the less of those I can take on. But what I do is I have a look, and if that's all ticking along nicely or under control from a social media perspective, then I go, right, out knowing how long it takes me to do like a branding project, I might go, right, I'll open up my books for one of those next month or whatnot. There are times like in the last little while where I've taken on too much. I took on 2 branding clients. I was also taking on my 7th and 8th social media client as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. And not only that, we had a lot of public holidays as well. So we've just gone through a run of like 3 long weekends in a row in Queensland. Plus, I also took a week and a half off because we were going away. So I'm usually really good at limiting myself to, how many extra side projects I actually take on. But sometimes it catches me. I'll never let a client, wait for things though. I will always deliver on time, but it just means that I'm putting more pressure on myself. So I'm coming up to the end of that second branding project that I've recently taken on. I'm coming up to the end of that in the next, week or so. And I've decided that I'm not taking on any more branding, for example, until July, because I need to give myself some breathing space. And I've also got my latest 2 social media clients, that I'm still onboarding, and onboarding takes a long time.
Yes.
And particularly with social media too, you're trying to get to know your clients. You're trying to understand their tone of voice. You're trying to understand, their audience as well. And you're trying to build that out. So they always take longer in the first month or 2. So I've just given myself some breathing space, and I'm trying to learn from, what I did in the last month or so, what not to do.
But I think that's a great example, and thank you for sharing so honestly about, where you're at. I think it's a great example that even though we'll go through periods where everything's humming and we're balancing business and we're looking after ourselves and all the hats that we wear, we're doing a really great job of doing it. There's sometimes the business can, almost take control over us instead of us having control over the business. And that can happen multiple times, regardless of where you're at in business and how long you've been going. But I think what you said is right, that's not sustainable. I've let it kind of get a little bit unruly. Let's just take a step back. Let's take some time off. Let's have a little bit of a quieter month. Let's just regroup, get back on top of us being in the driver's seat of our business. I think it's a great example because it can happen sometimes when we least expect it, and you think, oh no, I won't let that happen again. But it happens. Projects go a bit longer. A really great client that you might have sent a proposal 2 months ago, all of a sudden comes back and you really want to work with them. I think it's a really good message for us all that those things will happen from time to time, and you're not doing anything wrong. It's just things that will happen, but it's about recognizing it quickly and turning it around quickly.
Yeah. And I think also too, like with my latest social media client, I've actually said to her in the discovery call, I said, I would love to work with you. I just don't have capacity to start with you until June. And she's like, June's great.
And the right clients will wait, right?
Absolutely. And do you know what? The ones that want, and I've learned this because if it had been 2 years ago when I first was starting out, I would have gone, okay, well, I'll reach out to you in June and see if you're still interested. And, I would have been very much not taking control of the situation. But I said to her, so, if you'd like to start, if that works for you for June, what I'll do is I'll send my contract over to you. I said, I'll be sending my invoice. I said, that's essentially to lock in. I said, so you'll be paying your first month package up front. I said, that doesn't mean that, in a month's time, you'll get your next invoice. You won't. You'll get your next invoice a month after I actually start posting stuff. But this will secure your spot with me. And it's so gratifying and very humbling when they go, absolutely. Like you go, oh my God, like part of the inside going, oh my God, they want to work with me. It's so nice though. But once upon a time, I wouldn't have had the courage to actually do that. But I'm a business, and you know what? I need to act like a business owner, and I don't shy away from those conversations anymore. And I think that people feed off that though, because they go, well, she's sure about herself, inside the imposter syndrome might be, raising its little head. But I think people respect it as well, but you do it in the right way, right?
And I think people are drawn to that confidence. I know we've spoken in our inner circle brainstorming sessions about pricing, right? And I remember we were talking about it with someone's like, I don't know if I can actually charge this much. I can't, say it with my chest. And if you're shying away and going, oh, I'm not available for June, but if you really need me now, like I think I can make that work. And people go, yeah, okay, I'll take that. Where if you go, here are my packages, here's my price, here's my availability. If you'd like to secure a spot as one of my social media clients, here's what's going to happen. And they go, great, she's confident, she's got good processes, she knows where she's at, she's able to manage her time. I also think that really sets the tone for the relationship as a partnership. And we talk about this a lot around language, to be like, I'm not just here to work for you all the time, jump, how high when you say jump. It's like, no, this is how this is going to go. And you're in charge of that relationship and setting the tone. I think that then goes on to create a very sustainable, balanced, equal partnership.
Yeah. And it's not easy to do, particularly at the beginning, when, especially if you've been an employee for all your life, like, a lot of us have been before we've moved into this space. So it's really hard to get out of that employer-employee mindset and understand that it's a business to business. And, you deserve to be paid on time. You deserve to be appreciated, but it's a two-way street. And I'm pretty good at boundaries, and I don't know whether that's an age thing as well. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with starting your first business when you're 50. Like, I don't know. You get older, you get wiser, you just, have less F's to give, so to speak. But I'm always really respectful of anyone that I work with or deal with. That's, that's one of my values. But you also know that you're worth it and you are worthy of, all these things. And so boundaries are really important to me. I always tell people at social media, it's not a life emergency. Like, no one's dying today. Like, it's, if you see something and you want me to sort of use that as inspiration for a post for you, and you're sending it to me on the weekend, that's great. But I'm not going to respond to it until my working hours to go, thanks for that. Absolutely, people can send me stuff, but I'm not responding to them unless I'm working. And that's been from day dot. But I was the girl when I worked in the bank that, had to leave my desk to go have lunch. Like, I had to get away. So I've always had some sort of boundaries. So this is just following through in a different way.
And I think the point you made there around that's been from day dot, and we've talked about this on other episodes of the podcast, is starting out how you intend for it to go. And if you're answering on the weekends and you're giving them discounts and you're jumping on things that your client, deems as urgent that aren't really, and you're missing time with family or your friends or your girlfriends or your exercise and all of those things at the start, you've building, and I can say this as someone who has built that rod for their own back in my VA business over the 10 years is that is how the client will have, you will teach them to interact with you. And if you start it from the start, how you intend, even if you feel like, oh, God, I'm being a bit strict and I'm being a bit, it's my way or the highway, you're actually teaching the clients how this relationship's going to go. And you set it out from the start how you want it to continue from day dot.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
If there's someone listening, Sharon, that's thinking, I want to start, I've worked in the same industry forever, I'm of a certain age, I don't have any other experience, this is all I know, and then listening to this, what is some advice or some tips that you would give them?
First of all, you're never too old because I didn't see this. This wasn't something that I had always planned to do, clearly. But you're never too old. You have transferable skills. Hate when people say, I'm only a virtual assistant, or I only know this, or it's not helpful to anyone, least of all yourself. And I think that you can do this because honestly, the only processes and systems I knew were the ones within the organisation that I worked for several decades. Well, that's all I knew. I've come out of, there's so many systems and processes and things that I know how to do now that I had no idea even existed, for one. Or like I'm just blown away by, I love technology as well. So I embrace it. And I heard someone say a little while ago, it's not hard, it's just new.
Yeah.
And so I tell myself that regularly when I am trying to learn a new system or a new process. And I remember how far I've come since I started this business, that I didn't know how to do any of what I'm doing now from a systems and process perspective. I had a good background in stuff and I'm a logical person, but I didn't know how to do any of it. And now look, so just, I think, do it, start, and find a community. Honestly, the Seed community, so I'm part of the inner circle. It has been, I can honestly say, it's been the best investment. And I say investment, but the monthly, fee or membership cost is just absolutely worth it. Because if I think about the community and how they've championed me, but they've referred my last one to at least half of my social media clients have come from referrals from the Seed group.
Wow.
My last couple of brandings as well. Like it's been, I couldn't pay for advertising for, that small fee. Like honestly, that's bought in. So the return on investment has been amazing. But it's not just that though. It's actually the community where you can actually hop in there and just chat about anything, business related or not. And you've got this world of women who get it.
Yeah.
And like I can talk to my family about stuff that's going on, but they're not in that industry. They're not in that, they don't run small businesses. They don't know the challenges. And that's okay. But when you find your people like that, God,
you hold on to
game changer. Game changer. Yeah.
Well, Sharon, it has been lovely having you on the podcast today. If people want to get to know you more, follow along with your business, where's the best way for them to find you online?
No surprise, I'm most active on Instagram. So you can find me at Ella & Co Creative there. My website is a work in progress at the moment, so I won't direct you there. But generally speaking, Insta is where you'll find me. So, and if I'm not there, you'll find me inside the Seed inner circle as well.
There you go.
So, there you go.
Well, thank you very much. We'll make sure we put all the links to your Instagram and the website, albeit working in progress, in the show notes. Thank you so much. And thank you for always, jumping into the Seed inner circle. You really do add a lot of value. You're in there all the time, helping people out and jumping in and answering, especially around Canva, questions or quick hacks and tricks and tips. So very much appreciate you always being available and being, super generous with your time and expertise. And never asking anything in return. It's a huge, valuable asset you are to the community. So thank you for
Thank
being
you.
such an active member of our world.
I appreciate it. And thank you for making my first podcast interview not painful. It's actually been fun.
You're so welcome. Thank you for listening to another episode of Seed to Success. Make sure you are subscribing so you never miss an episode. If you know a VA or OBM who might benefit from this conversation, be sure to share it with them. Let's chat again soon.